Crocker returns as their quarterback, and he looked pretty good at the Wren Jamboree. He outshined everybody, threw for almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns and a half.
Yeah, I noticed I read your report on that. Yeah.
Yes, he and everyone's thinking you have played teams like Wren and Powdersville in there that are known for throwing the football out. You'd think their quarterbacks would steal the show.
Yeah.
It was Shaw Crocker that stole the show. They also have a pretty good running back in Tyson Beatty. He's a little shifty guy, about 5'7". Little wide receiver in Peyton Young. He's about 5'8". And they have a pretty good-sized offensive line so they were able to score a lot of points last year, so I would not expect that to change. The key for the Mustangs this year will be defense, though. Their defense was...
Got to stop somebody.
Yeah, their defense was... They got gashed a few games last year, and they were crucial games. So if they want to get a spot in the playoffs, they have got to shore up their defense a little bit, because I think they were giving up about 38 points a game last year. You're not going to win a lot of football games that way, especially when it gets later in the season and it starts getting colder. That's
and
not
you get tired and worn out too. Those kids do. And these smaller schools with a smaller student body, 1 or 2 injuries is devastating.
Especially for them. And with the institution of this new 8-quarter rule, which prohibits guys from playing JV and varsity, it's not going to hurt the big schools, but for schools like Palmetto that have a smaller roster.
Crescent, Palmetto, all those, Powdersville.
And most of those guys play both ways. So you have to think fatigue, conditioning is going to be key for Palmetto this year. If they can, beat West Oak and Walhalla, get a win over Pickens, and maybe pull an upset over a Wren or a Daniel, they have a very good shot to make a playoff spot. And that would be a great leap forward for Coach Shaw. And
it sure would, yeah. They'd have to give him a raise.
I think they would. And, if they do that, they might have some other schools sniffing around to take Doug Shaw.
Put him back up in those bigger leagues where he used to be. Okay.
But yeah, Palmetto is going to be definitely an interesting group to watch this year.
Okay. Now, next, you want to do BHP Palmetto, you want to move to Wren, or you want to go to Crescent?
Let's just go ahead and do the Wren Hurricanes and wrap up our Western 3A teams.
Good.
Big story for them, well, 2 big things. One, how do you go about replacing a guy like Kelly Bryant at quarterback?
Well, you really don't. You have to adjust around him, don't you? You have to say, all right, guys, we can't do that now. We have to figure out how to do that. When you got somebody like him.
Yes, and the old adage of, well, just give Kelly the ball, that's not going to work this year. Because there were many games last year where he single-handedly beat teams, if you remember correctly.
Oh, I do, yes. He's big and strong in high school, yeah.
He was clearly a man among boys last year. They don't have that at quarterback this year. Junior Jay Urich, about 6'3", about 200 pounds, good-sized guy.
Now, did he move in there?
Oh, yeah. He originally came...
Blue Ridge or something?
He originally played at Blue Ridge,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably a better thrower than Kelly. But he's not near as athletic. And...
Well, few are.
No. Yeah, that's correct.
No.
He... Like I said, he came in. He's been there a year now. He knows the offense. But he just doesn't have that it factor that a D1 player has. He's getting looked at by schools like Mercer, FCS level schools.
It's okay, yeah.
Which is still a college scholarship.
But out of Mercer, play for Bobby Lamb, you're all right.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad place.
Hey, they're in the Southern Conference now, aren't they? Yeah.
Yes, they are, and they are.
Okay.
That is a team to watch if you are a fan of small college football, because they are on the rise. But he's a lot like Coach McKissick's grandson. Jay Urich is going to play in a shadow this year, sadly, of Kelly Bryant.
Yeah,
and especially early on.
And he is a junior, right?
Yes.
So he can establish himself, stays healthy, and have his own legacy.
Helping him though will be Bailey Rogers at wide receiver, who is a verbal commitment to go to Furman next year.
Okay.
And running back Nathaniel Eckware. I think I'm saying his last name right.
Okay.
Eckware was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. Rogers was a 1,000-yard receiver last year.
That's pretty good when you figure out how much they threw it around too.
Yes.
And also, Without looking, I would think Kelly Bryant was probably the leading rusher.
He was.
So you run 1,000, and you got a guy in the backfield that ran more than you. That's pretty good.
Yes, it is.
This year, healthy, you may get another yard or two.
Yes, it is.
Another chance.
So Urich will definitely have some guys he can use. Also has Adam Campbell coming back who can play wide receiver. Trey Gray, a sophomore who plays cornerback, can also run the ball. He did a little bit of jamboree work for him this year and looked serviceable. He didn't quite have the explosive step that Eckler has, but in a pinch, he was able to get a yard or two. The biggest question for Wren is not Kelly Bryant, though. The biggest question for them on offense is replacing 5 offensive linemen.
Wow.
2 of them went to college. 2 of them are playing at Newberry this year.
I did not realize they lost everybody.
Yes. So that's I know quarterback's going to get a lot of attention because that's just the state of the game now. But I don't care if you have Kelly Bryant back there. If you have 5 guys that can't block for him, not even he can win you all
That's right.
games.
Yeah.
Which is why I think probably Wren will not have its record-setting offense last year where they averaged 52 points a game last year.
Yeah.
They may only average 42.
Okay.
Maybe 35.
Yeah.
So their defense is going to have to step up this year.
Stop somebody, yeah.
And they do have some guys coming back. A former Teal Hanna player, Chase McCroskey, is on the defensive line. 6'4", about 230 pounds.
Okay. Yeah. Can he move?
Yes, he is.
Okay, good.
But his brother is more of a football player, and he's a little bit bigger than him, about 290. And then they have Timber Hood at defensive tackle, who was very disruptive in the jamborees so far. So they're going to have a good defensive front. Coach Jeff Tate told me, though, the key for them is going to be their back 7. They're going to have to step up and make plays this year because there are games where they got torched deep on the passing game. So if they can shore that up and maybe manage games a little bit better instead of going for the deep balls all the time like they did with Kelly and do more sustained drives, I think they'll have a chance to compete for a region title. But I think they're probably a year away from being contenders for it.
Okay. All right. So that takes care of our Western 3A teams and leaves us with Crescent and Pendleton and Powdersville.
And Crescent.
And, Crescent.
We got the boys down in Region 2AA.
Got the Tigers. I love to tell this story about Crescent High School. When they first built their stadium, I was working at old WANS, and they had to play in the daytime because they had no lights in the stadium. Didn't even have stands in the stadium. I went down there that first season and carried a tape recorder and stood on a chair behind the bench and broadcast the ball game. And when I got at a certain point, I would take the tape, and if there was a guy with me, he would run to the radio station and take that tape. And then after the first one, they started playing it, and then I had to try to keep up. That's a long way from Crescent High School all the way up to where Toys R Us now. That's where A&S was. And we did that. So one year they played a team called Dacusville. That one game. This is only their first year. I had done a lot of their basketball. But Dacusville didn't show up. Their bus broke down. This was afternoon Friday game now. So the way they worked that is Crescent kicked off, and there was nobody to return it. So I think that Crescent was awarded a 2-point win in that game. And so everything was wrapping up, and Dacusville showed up. So they scrimmaged, but the game didn't count then. So just an oddity I thought I would throw in there.
And for those that don't know, Dacusville is in Easley, correct?
Right. It's up that way, yeah. So anyway, okay. That gave you time to look up.
We're ready to go.
All right.
Crescent's actually one of the easier ones to do because, last year they won 4 games.
Yeah.
4-7, you think, and that was an improvement from the season before. So you'd think, they had a better year. Unfortunately, if you look at the region they play in, 4 of the 6 teams they play are ranked in the preseason top 20 this year. That involves Strom Thurmond, Abbeville, which, if anyone's familiar with them, that is a team you do not want to play.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure how many single A and 2A titles they have in their trophy case, but I know they got a lot.
Yeah.
They also have Batesburg-Leesville, which has really, really improved the past few seasons. They're loaded with athletes.
Yeah.
And they also have Saluda down there, which is where current Gamecock Dexter Wyden played.
Okay.
That was a pretty good team. So they play a very, very tough region schedule. Last year they have to play it, but they still have to play it this year.
Well, that also many years out of conference, out of region, they'll play Pendleton.
Yes, they will.
And that's no pushover. And Ware Shoals, they used to play Ware Shoals.
Yeah, this year they're playing Dixie.
Okay, that give them a little bit of a help.
Yeah, Dixie's struggling a little bit. That's a single-A school.
Yeah, they've always struggled, by the way.
But still, it's a game. They're playing it. Dixie has a chance.
Yeah, sure.
But one thing that's going to help Crescent this year is that if you looked at their roster last season, it was almost all sophomores.
Okay.
They lost 5 seniors from last year's team. One of them is Ray Arterbridge, who did pretty well at the state track championships this past year.
Okay.
But other than that, they return everybody. And Coach Jeff Murdoch is hoping now that they took their lumps last year as sophomores. Now they can start hopefully dishing them out as juniors.
A lot of people don't realize Bruce Ollie's coached down there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Many years ago.
Yeah, Crescent's, they got a lineage of some very good coaches that have come out of there.
Man, yeah.
They are going to incorporate one change you're going to see at Crescent this year. I think this is also a change for Coach Murdoch. They're going to do some more shotgun this year. As far as I know, Murdoch has been an under center wing offense kind of guy.
Yeah.
Very traditional.
Right.
If you're a sports writer, you love those types of teams because their games are quick.
Yeah. And there's not that much to keep up with.
No.
Yeah.
No, but so they're going to be instituting a lot of stuff that, Auburn does.
Yeah.
A lot of that read option, a lot of spread, quick hitters. Still going to be mostly running the ball, though.
Yeah.
Austin Pruitt returns as quarterback, and he had times where he looked good as a sophomore. There are also times where his youth and inexperience showed. He can run the ball pretty well, and he can throw a deep ball pretty good. That's really all the film I've been able to see on him.
Yeah.
But for that type of offense, that's really all you need at quarterback.
Sure.
The key for them is going to be D.D. Hull. He's a running back and a wing back, about 6'1", about 180 pounds.
Good size.
Very good size, especially for a two-way kid.
Sure.
That is almost unheard of it down at two-way. Their offensive line returns almost everybody. Defensive line returns almost everybody. I think this could be a year where Crescent competes for a playoff spot. Where they get in, they're going to have to upset a team or two.
Yeah.
But
they can catch some tough ones at home. Maybe they'll,
yes.
That's what you got to hope for.
And for their credit, they weren't terrible in the region last year. They had a few games. They were in it through the third quarter, and they just got away from it in the fourth quarter. So you think maybe if you can switch maybe one or two of those games, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so they will have a shot to make the playoffs their last year as a Class 2A school.
Great. Okay. That was the Crescent Tigers.
Now we can head on up to the other end of the county and check out Paul Sutherland and his Pendleton Bulldogs.
Well, Paul, maybe last year, I don't know if it's his toughest year, but one of his toughest years since he's been there.
It was. A lot like Crescent, actually. They returned almost everybody. They had most of their team was full of juniors, though. This year, now it's all seniors, almost. But they will also be playing their last year in Class 2A.
Sure.
And they maybe have the worst travel schedule of any team I've ever seen because their region takes them to Landrum and Blacksburg and Chesney. And if anyone knows where Landrum and Blacksburg are, that's not a fun trip to make. I've gone to Landrum before for a game. It's a beautiful drive up there. Absolutely gorgeous. It just takes you forever to get there.
Yeah. Seems like there was a year that I may have done a Landrum game when I was broadcasting for a station over in Spartanburg. Do they play Woodruff this year?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
That's
all right.
That's another school out of the Greenville metropolitan area that has really picked up its talent the past few years.
Yeah, they went through a little bit of a down time after after they made that coaching change over there when they lost their legend, who all of a sudden escapes me. one of the greatest coaches that ever lived, was over there. And so now they're back, and so Pendleton gets them.